Hello and welcome to Sniper Media. I am your host for the day, and I will be discussing Brian Kilmeade in this first premiere presentation of Sniper Media. Sniper Media, your go to place to destroy the media narrative. It is oftentimes, actually, as most of the time, that our media lies. They create false narratives and they and push them on us. Whenever you're not exposed to any other perspectives, you automatically get sucked in, reeled into believing everything these jokers have to tell you. So it will be my effort and goal in this channel to destroy the lies and the false propaganda and the misinformation coming from the media. My first premiere episode, we're going to focus here on Brian Kilmeade of Fox News. Now, I listen to his radio show sometimes, but I tell you, this guy drives me nuts. He is absolutely just makes me grit my teeth in anger, and I shouldn't allow it to upset me this much. But it really upsets me that he is allowed to get on broadcast airwaves, on TV, on national radio, and just lie through his teeth constantly, just continuing to just lie, one lie after another, one false truth after another. I can't figure out whether he is really stupid and he actually believes the stuff he is saying, or is he purposefully lying and knowing he's lying, but he does it because he's being paid to lie. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle, maybe it's a little bit of both, but one thing that I do know is this guy should stick to sports because he thinks everything is a football game. Everything is a sports tournament. It's either you're rooting for this team or you're rooting for that team, and there's no concessions for the other team whatsoever. You cannot consider their point of view at all. You can only consider your own point of view, and he completely just lies through his teeth. He made me very angry today. Now let's go over some of the lies he keeps talking about. The most recent one is I just heard him on the radio saying something about how he gets so he needs to calm his tits because he gets so emotional about his own bullshit. And I really wish someone would sit him down and talk to him and explain to him that he is full of it. He's absolutely full of crap. I think the problem is he might be talking to the wrong people. I see that General Keane on his show quite often, and that guy is nothing but a warmongering, bloodthirsty warhawk, a Russophobic bastard. He's lying through his teeth too, and I wouldn't surprise me if he wasn't taking money from the Ukraine lobby, the military-industrial complex, whoever. These jokers need to be stopped because they're not good for. Don't we as Americans deserve to be told the truth? I mean, doesn't it make you angry when they just flat out just lie to you? Anyway, so Brian Kilmeade, the dunce here, the dunce of Fox News, was saying he was all upset about it, saying how like Russian snipers are shooting innocent women and children as they try to evacuate and flee Ukraine. Russian snipers are purposefully, brutally murdering, sniping innocent women and children, and they're laying face down in their own pools of blood and all this stuff. None of that is true. None of it. Not one single word of that is true. Now, granted, there have been some civilians killed in Ukraine, but you know what? Here's what the truth is. As the Russians have encircled the major cities, and they're doing it at a snail's pace because that is their tactic. Don't misunderestimate their tactic for Western tactics. They're not going in to Ukraine like America went into Iraq and just bomb and blow up everything to smithereens and to turn everything into rubble. Where was his outrage over Mosul, huh? I mean, did you ever see Mosul? Huh, give me a break. The Russians are going in there at a very they're handling it with a soft touch with kids' gloves. Now, I know if you listen to people like Brian Kilmeade, you're not going to believe that. They're avoiding trying to kill civilians. They're trying to not damage infrastructure because they don't want to have to rebuild it. And they're actually whenever they have these temporary ceasefires, they're actually going and repairing some of the infrastructure that got destroyed, like utilities and such. As far as the civilian casualties go, the Ukrainian troops are hiding amongst civilians. They're placing their defensive positions, their rockets and their artilleries in the courtyards, in the playgrounds, and in schools. And they're hiding among the civilian population because they know Russia is hesitant to destroy and bomb and level those areas with innocent civilians present. So they are using civilians as human shields. And then when they lobby rocket attacks against Russia, and then Russia responds, and then maybe a stray missile here or there hits something, and some civilians get harmed in the process, that happens. But if the Ukrainians weren't such pussies and not hiding among the civilians, that wouldn't happen. Let's see how strong and brave they really are, and have them leave the cities and go out to the city suburbs and meet the Russians face on and fight them there, instead of hunkering and hiding in gymnasiums and around apartment blocks. Now, as far as the ceasefires go, Brian, the dunce over here, continues claiming that that Russians violating the ceasefire and then sniping the civilians as they try to escape to the humanitarian corridor. Further nonsense. For one thing, Russia's the one who is negotiating these humanitarian corridors. They're the ones that are insisting on these ceasefires, which Ukraine violated 3 times over this last weekend, especially in the area around Mariupol. Now, you got to consider this. The people in western Ukraine that are closer to the Polish border, it's easier and more convenient for them to evacuate into Poland and into Hungary and such, because they're closer. And plus, they're more Ukrainian nationals, and they're more appropriately fit in with Poland and all that stuff. But the Russians that are on the east, over towards the Donbass region and over towards Mariupol, they've been under siege by the Azov Battalion, the right sector neo-fascist neo-Nazis, fascist neo-Nazis, Azov, Svoboda, and even some of their leaders are in the Ukrainian parliament. So, yes, there is a very huge neo-Nazi fascist problem in the Ukrainian military, and a lot of them are rogue, and they refuse to follow orders of the Ukrainian hierarchy of the generals in the Ukrainian army. They're saying, no, we're going to do what we want. They enjoy and they love killing. They've been sieging Donbass for the last 8 years. At one point, they were dropping white phosphorus on civilians, and now they're using the civilians as human shields. And they've been shooting and killing anybody that tries to flee. And these people in the eastern part, the Donbass region and the Mariupol region of Ukraine, they're closer to Russia. It would be pointless for them to try to travel all the way across Ukraine to get to Poland when they can just go to Russia. So Russia's opened up humanitarian corridors going into Russia and into Belarus. A lot of these people in that area are ethnic Russians, so they're more fitted and suited to going and evacuating into Russia or Belarus, since they don't want to have anything to do with this Kiev government that is basically a Western puppet. And most of them want to be reunified with Russia because they identify as Russian. And they've been persecuted by the Ukrainians, and they've been under siege by these neo-Nazi fascist Azov battalions for the last 8 years. The Azov battalion had, a couple of days ago, trapped 200 civilians in the basement of a apartment block building that they had pre-wired for explosives, using them as human shields, and they blew it up with the rubble landing all over on top of those 200 innocent people, mostly women and children. Brian Kilmeade's not going to ever tell you about that because it doesn't fit his narrative, because he's not going to ever consider the other team or their considerations or what they have to say. He's just going to chalk it all up to Russian propaganda and shove his dunce head back in the sand because he's an absolute moron. And for him to think that Russia's committing all these atrocities on purpose, and they're not, they're actually taking great care not to harm civilians. But you know what? They're being put in a situation to where these right sector neo-Nazi fascists are forcing their hands to respond and to fire at them in positions near and around civilians. They're hiding and hunkering down in gymnasiums and schools like a bunch of little wussies. So Brian Kilmeade is my target today on Sniper Media. I wish Fox News would do something. Sit this guy down and say, look, Brian, no more politics for you because you're an imbecile. You're a dunce. You don't know what you're talking about. You're an absolute moron, Brian. You're an idiot. And Brian's so eager to help the Ukrainian people, and he wants American blood spilled to help a corrupt nation that is not a democracy. There never were a democracy. All they are is a U.S. puppet who we are funneling our weapons to, which the U.S. taxpayer pays for, so the military industrial complex can get rich. These people are laughing their way all the way to the bank as we pay more for gas, food, everything else. Inflation's going up. And this dunce over here, Brian Kilmeade, wants us to basically go to war with Russia. I got an idea, Brian. Why don't you pull your two kids out of college and send them to Ukraine to fight? I challenge you, Brian. I'm sure you can convince them, right? I mean, you're their father, after all. I'm sure they respect you and they'll do what you ask, and they know the cause is genuinely of great concern to you. They want to make you proud, Brian. Send them to Ukraine to fight the Russians. Come on, big guy. I didn't think so. You're all talk, you're all mouth, and no action, Brian Kilmeade. You are a dunce. You are a laughable, just moronic, imbecilic, idiot human being. You have no business discussing geopolitics in any regard. You need to stick to high school football and basketball because the only talent you have is pitting one side against the other. And you need to just get off the airwaves and shut up because you have no right to sit there and say things that are not true. You know damn well Russian snipers are not sitting on top of a roof building sniping civilians, children. You know this, Brian. You're surely not that stupid, are you? Anyway, I'm glad you enjoyed this first episode from Sniper Media. I'm going to be watching the news, and I'm going to be keeping an eye on you, Brian Kilmeade. And I have a feeling I'm going to have a field day with your ass. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you soon.